Hello. Good evening, and welcome to the Center for Jewish History. My name is Gabriel Sanders. I'm the Chief of Partner Services here at the Center. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this screening of On the Map. We're thrilled to have the filmmaker, Dani Menkin, here this evening. Nancy Spielberg, an honor to have her as well, and Shelly Freeman. I'd like to give a special shout out to her for helping make this happen, as well as Michael Mantell, who's going to be speaking very soon. The Center is home to the largest archive of Jewish materials outside of Israel, the largest Holocaust archive outside of Israel, and largest of both of those in the United States. We hope you'll return, attend more programs, become connected. We have membership, donation. We'd love to tell you more about the work we're doing. We have a lot of exciting projects underway. So please stay connected. This screening is so important tonight for us to bring in an Israeli filmmaker, for us to have conversations about important subjects of Jewish history. So we're thrilled to be hosting tonight's screening. I'm going to hand it over now to Michael, who's going to share a little bit more. Thank you so much.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the On the Map 50th Anniversary Special Screening. My name is Michael Mantell, and I'm so thrilled to welcome you all here this evening. It is truly wonderful to see this room full of friends, old and new. Before we begin, I want to say a few thank yous to everyone who made this event happen. First, we're incredibly grateful to the Center for Jewish History for partnering with us and providing this absolutely beautiful space. To the many staff members, both front of house and behind the scenes, who are making this event possible, thank you. We appreciate everyone from security team, AV team, managers, and everyone else who brought this program together. Special thanks to Gabriel, Lucy, and Jason. I also, by all means, they definitely deserve it. I would also like to thank our other program partners for their support and collaboration in bringing this special screening to life. The Rededication Project, White Rose Magazine, NYC Shtetl, Jewish in School, Mothers Against College Antisemitism, and the Moe Safra Center. Special shout outs to Darren Glick, Karen Lerman-Block, and Judy Falk. As well, a very special thank you to our guest this evening, truly the reason why we are here today, Israeli Academy Award-winning filmmaker Dani Menkin, award-winning producer Nancy Spielberg, and YIVO's Shelly Freeman. We're so honored to have you three here with us and grateful that you are sharing your time, insights, and this story. And of course, thank you to all of you for being here. It's people like you who are coming that makes this meaningful. Speaking of basketball stories that bring people together, New York had Knicks in 5. But long before that, something that became legendary around the world, Maccabi in 77. By a show of hands, anyone here actually remember that historic moment? Amazing, amazing. For those who do, you know why it remains unforgettable, and I'm so glad you can relive that moment with us tonight. And for those who don't, tonight you're about to discover why this film is about so much more than basketball. This evening is an opportunity to celebrate the power of storytelling and the way stories of resilience, determination, and perseverance continue to inspire generations. Also, just a moment to honor the athletes, coaches, and individuals whose extraordinary journey inspired this film and whose story continues to resonate around the world. It takes many people, as you can see, to pull an event like this together, and I'm grateful to everyone who played a part in making this event happen. As a reminder, we have a live silent auction online featuring rare signed Maccabi Tel Aviv memorabilia from Tal Brody and Aulcie Perry. They signed them, and all the proceeds from the auction support the On the Map Foundation, so your money goes to a good cause. Now, to kick off the program, I welcome Dani Menkin to share a few words and offer reflections on the film. Thank you, Dani.
Michael, you were awesome. So hands for Michael, because really he made this happen. And you thanked all the right people, so I'm like, it's not pretty common that I'm out of words. I'm very, very grateful for everyone. This is also the beginning of the 50th anniversary for 1977, and to this miracle. I was 7 years old when it happened. And for me, these are my childhood heroes. And it was amazing, and Nancy and I were just speaking about it, the fact that in Israel, it's really what happened in this movie is almost like the 11th commandment, and some of the people here, they know what I'm talking about. Tal Brody cannot walk on the street without people telling him we are on the map. And, right, Pete, you played, you know. And here, people did not know about this story. So what's beautiful about making a film, and that is why I'm dedicating so much my heart and soul and sometimes money in it, because it's pretty cuckoo to do it, is that it does stay forever. And we launched the film 10 years ago, and it's still alive. And after October 7, it's more important than ever. And after what is happening lately all over the world, but you know what is going on in the United States, everywhere, it's important for us to show everyone that we are on the map. So this is going to be a feel-good story, feel-good movie about a country that was wounded and suffered from a trauma, kind of like what we have now, but there was a basketball team that changed a lot for us. So I hope you'll enjoy it. We'll be here for Q&A. Thank you. It's amazing. Thank you for making it a full house. Yeah.
All right, amazing. How's everyone doing? Beautiful. Truly an amazing story, an amazing film. Before we move into the panel discussion, I want to remind you all that a silent auction is going on online. I'm going to be pushing that a little bit. It's really important that we support it. We're going to have the QR code, if that's okay, just on for a moment. Everyone, this is a great time to take out your phones. Is that possible? We can get the, yeah? All right, cool. And then I also want to invite you to watch a brief film that offers a closer look at Dani Menkin's nonprofit On the Map Foundation. Then after the film, as Dani, Nancy, and Shelly join on stage, I will introduce each of them to you. So if you want to take out your phone, I'll smile just in case a minute. And it'll be awesome if you guys do it. And the auction will close at the end of the program. So I hope you can bid on it. And again, all the proceeds go to On the Map Foundation. We'll talk a little bit more about the mission and the fantastic work that they do there. All right, awesome. Thank you. Everyone, yeah, you got it? All right, great. So we're going to show a film. It's 2 minutes, a quick clip. And while it's shown, I might just pass some more of these out.
This is how we look in the world. And this is how we really are.
All the movies that you're doing, which is basically presenting the face of Israel in such an important time where you have so much anti-Semitism around the world today, where people don't understand what really Israel is.
For the last decades, I'm telling inspirational stories from Israel. If it's about sport, if it's about triumph, if it's about redemption.
The crowd, the people that see it, feel so proud and they feel so attached to the movies. You just have to see it to believe it. It just came out of my heart.
Join us now in support of telling more inspirational stories from Israel.
Dani Menkin is award-winning Los Angeles-based filmmaker and two-time Israeli Academy Award winner whose works include Is That You?, 39 Pounds of Love, Dolphin Boy, On the Map, Picture of His Life, Aulcie, and more. He is also the founder of Hey Jude Productions. Next, I'm honored to introduce Nancy Spielberg. An award-winning film producer, philanthropist, and advocate. Her acclaimed productions include Above and Beyond, Who Will Write Our History, On the Map, Picture of His Life, Aulcie, Vishniac, Closed Circuit, and Letter to David. She also served as a consultant on the Academy Award-winning Chernobyl Heart and the Fabelmans. She's a founder and supporter of numerous charitable initiatives and is dedicated to combating antisemitism, preserving Jewish history, and supporting films that educate and inspire. She also honors her parents' legacy by helping manage the Milky Way, the family's kosher Los Angeles restaurant founded by her mother. Amazing. And finally, I'd like to introduce Shelly Freeman. We are so grateful to Shelly to help bring this program together and guiding tonight's conversation. Shelly Freeman is Chief of Staff at the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research, holds a combined law and economics degree, and began her career in legal practice and academia before serving as a ministerial advisor in the Victorian government. She later founded a consulting practice specializing in government relations and communications. Shelly also serves on the board of the Jewish Quarterly and Fed Social. Thank you, Dani, Nancy, and Shelly.
Okay, welcome Dani and Nancy. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Okay. I have to say this is probably the third or fourth time I've seen the film, and I still get so emotional watching it. So thank you, Dani and Nancy, for that incredible film. Dani, I'm gonna start with you, and I know we've heard about it in the film, but I want to hear in your words how you think the Maccabi Tel Aviv victory in 1977 changed the country or healed the country.
I mean, for me, first, everybody, really, thank you so much for coming. It's incredible. I don't know if I should first thank all of you that organized it, but maybe I should also thank the Knicks, because I feel like they had to do something with it. You're now starting to be addicted to winning. I mean, you're welcome to winning. So this is really what it did for us, and actually. Yair Lapid was talking about it, that, we were not used to winning. And it was 4 years after Yom Kippur. I was a kid, so I was not able to articulate the pain, but I could feel it. There was a trauma. It was not even too far from the Holocaust. So the idea is that, suddenly there are, 6 players coming from the States and helping 3 Israeli Sabras competing with a team that never even passed the first round. And they need to play against the CSKA Moscow. They're supporting all of our enemies, and they don't even want to play Israel. And the fact that Israel is winning like that, that really changed a lot. So look, it's not that it was a pill that Israel, one day woke up and healed, but it was a moment that everybody remembers. And it was live. Remember, it's not like today. Everybody watched it.
Yes. And you said in the introduction, and you've said in our conversations, you were 7 years old at the time. Tell me what you remember about that night.
So what I remember specifically is my father lifted me up, and we're all going to what it was then Municipality Square, became Rabin Square. And my mother remembers that, Rabin resigned when we were jumping, but everyone was jumping. It was pretty, there's still dirty pool over there, but they're jumping over there. And yeah, I mean, it is one of my first childhood memories. And I became, of course, a Maccabi fan, like most people in my age, and it was really a Maccabi mania. Tal, Mickey, they were all my childhood heroes, and they were legends. So when I was approached, actually, at first by Rinat Klein, who was the daughter of Coach Klein, and she is the executive producer of Channel 8 in Israel, saying, Dani, there was never a movie about it. I was like, no, everybody we don't need to make a movie about it. Everybody knows everything. She said, just check and see if there is anything that people don't know. So people did not remember the drama of Rabin's resignation during the game. They did not remember so many things that Tal Brody, needs the leader of the team, that it's in the last game of his career. His goal was to win the championship. He gives up on the NBA, and he needs to go to his father. I mean, those things you cannot write. And for me, it was like just an amazing storyline that captured 1977. So it was more than just the team. It was really the country. Everything that happened. I could see, like in Forrest Gump, that, you could just put the entire history of the country, from Yom Kippur, Entebbe, Refusnik, even the peace, everything happened in that year while that miracle is happening.
Thank you, and you've answered my next question, was why did you want to make the film? So thank you for that. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, because we've had conversations before, and as you explained to me, all the footage and the filming was in black and white back then. So in the film, there's a lot of colour footage and other really interesting archival materials. How did you get hold of that?
So when I got the funding to do the research, I found out that there's so much stuff that nobody has ever seen. I saw it in black and white. I mean, I thought Mickey and Tal are black and white. It's like, seriously, I never, and then suddenly, like, they're all in colors. And so it was amazing because, we've done it for Israel, and then it was really interesting for them. Wow, you're really, you understand that you're telling, I mean, this is the center of Jewish history, and that moment I understood I'm telling a Jewish history.
How did you get the colour footage? Where did that come from?
So private people, and actually the most important thing is the behind the scene of the game against Cheska that was held in front of 500 people. I mean, that's it. 498 Israelis and 2 from the KGB. That's it. That's
You got the footage from
the
some of the
footage
people?
I got from the Luxembourg TV, and they decided to follow it. And like the commentator, Alex Giladi, said, he asked a cameraman from their TV to follow him. And I got the entire footage
That's fantastic.
of it,
All
40
right.
years after.
Great. So in our discussions, what I understand now is that you want to turn On the Map into a feature film. So I've got a couple of questions around that, which is very exciting. Firstly, I'm going to shoot all three at you and you can answer them. So the first one is, how far advanced are you in making that a feature film? Also, what additional depth or what additional things you can bring to the feature film over and above the documentary? And the final point is, if there were no constraints, who would you dream of casting as Tal Brody?
Yeah, right.
There are the three questions.
First, we're really open to ideas, and Jacob Elordi is a pretty good idea for that. Yeah, well, here, I see some people agree. Yeah, I agree, but it will be above the budget right now with Euphoria and everything. I would say that it should be really honest, and I think, even when we worked on the documentary, that there are things that you cannot capture. I was not in the locker room. You know, I did not have, you know, all the access of those moments of them behind the scene talking to the Russian players. I mean, one of the most important characters in the movie is the coach, and I could not even have it. He wasn't alive then. The moment that Tal Brody goes to his father, you know, I would want to capture that. That's a great dramatic moment. That again, if I wrote it, or Moshe Dayan. Moshe Dayan asking Tal Brody to stay for a year when he really wants to play in the, you know, in the NBA. So all those things are just, when the movie that we made, because when Nancy and I worked on the American version, we already had like an Israeli version, but we really Americanized it.
Yeah, we're going to get
and
to
that's
that,
after, she'll talk also about Above and Beyond and everything. But when it came out, the Hollywood Reporter immediately wrote, it has to be a drama.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so
how
this is
far,
where we are.
How far along are you in that?
There is a screenplay and a wonderful team of people, and we are, believe it or not, we're in the process of fundraising whoever wants to be a producer, executive producer, and Michael will bring you the ball and the shirts, and you can support our development. What is really exciting that the Israeli TV just announced that they're going to help developing it. So it's pretty exciting.
One of the things,
and I think I will just say we're turning into I mentioned it, the 50th anniversary for 1977, and I'm aiming the film to launch at the 80th birthday of Israel, which is about to come.
soon. So one of the things I want to ask you, when the feature film comes out, and you know we talked about the game having this healing effect on Israel back in '77, what do you think for the younger generation watching this film when it comes out? Some of them might not have known about the story, or they're hearing it for the first time. What sort of impact do you think it can have on them?
Look, I mean, and Nancy knows very well when we go on festivals, and sometimes we go on international film festivals, you know, and what they hear about us is really the same BS, you know, what they hear in the news. And this is not the Israel that I grew up in. You know, this is what we were dealing with, you know. So I think, you know, once they can learn, and I mean, even the Jewish young
That's
generation.
what I'm talking about, the Jewish young.
Not only, I mean,
Yeah.
of course we want to cross, and we will cross, and this have crossed to so many places. But when we're talking about young generation, so a lot of times, you know, with a basketball movie, they're learning the history of our country, you know, and we're doing it in the States. I've done a lot of screenings with Tal Brody. You know, I think there was a moment that I saw Tal Brody more than my wife, you know, they were like traveling a lot, you know, and it's fine. He's still with his wife, I'm still with my wife. But
Thank God.
But we really wanted to do that, and I think we had a lot of important screenings that we saw that, you know, the young generation, they don't know anything about our country. And they were yelling in the middle of the movie just like they were watching the Lakers or the Knicks.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
That's fantastic. And also in the clip we just wrote, I'm going to paraphrase it, but what Tal Brody basically said is all your movies present the face of Israel in such a critical time of so much anti-Semitism around the world, and people don't understand what really Israel is. How does On the Map and all your other films, which I highly recommend people going to see, show what Israel really is?
You know, and we worked on Picture of His Life, Aulcie, On the Map, and some of my other films, the main theme for those stories are healing.
Yeah.
And I think this is really where I'm very much motivated to bring On the Map as a drama film, because it has to have a bigger stage, and people, I mean, we as a crowd, we need it, you know, and I believe the entire world also can see what we're going through right now. So what Israel went through in 1973 is really similar to what I found that us, the Jewish people, and the Israelis are going through after the trauma of October 7.
So shortly after On the Map, the film, you set up On the Map Foundation, which we saw a clip about. I mean, I just want to give you the opportunity to say, you know, briefly, what is its mission and what is its mission now? Just to keep producing these type of films?
Make more inspirational stories from Israel, develop on the map the new sequel and the drama of the documentary, and really to show Israel in better light, to do non-political inspirational stories from Israel. I mean, I think everybody, interesting, I had yesterday hummus with my good friend Jeff Bartz, who's a great editor at HBO. And we said that at the end of the day, and everything is a story. You know, people, I want people to know, when they talk about Israel, I want them to know, I want them to think of this. You know, I will tell you a story. You know, I live in Porter Ranch. So nobody knows where Porter Ranch is in LA. So, you know, there was a filmmaker that made a movie called E.T. Have you heard about him? I don't know. So that's the only way I can explain what is Porter Ranch. Oh, they made E.T. there. There is an E.T. park. That's what, you know. So that's it. That's how they know Porter Ranch. I want people to know Israel through on the map.
Okay. The last question for you, Dani, before I turn over to Nancy. Slightly different topic, but your production company is called Hey Jude, which is quite a memorable...
Not Hey Jude? Hey Jude.
Yeah, I thought it was Hey Jude, but it's Hey Jude. Can you tell us the backstory behind that name?
So right now, I should change the reason why I called it, and it should be under Jude Bellingham, the scorer of England, because he's like, yes, thank you. There are some fans for him, me as well. But there is a line of the Beatles which I admire that says, take a sad song and make it better. I really think this is the story. These are the stories that I want to share. You know, at the end of the day, there is a need for a pain and there is a need for a healing in any story. That's what I believe in. So any film that I'm touching has to have those elements. And so it really is taking a sad song and make it better. And that's what I hope we're doing right now in Israel.
Yeah.
You know, we're taking a sad song. It was sad, you know, but we're going to make it better.
Thank you, Dani. That's fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Nancy. Nancy, you were the executive producer of the film.
Right.
So my first question is, how did you and Dani first meet?
I had produced Above and Beyond, which I actually screened here, I remember as well. And we were traveling with the film in many, many Jewish film festivals. And Dani was also in film festivals. So we sort of, like, a lot of times this happens where you end up chasing each other through the circuit of film festivals, the Jewish ones. And Dani had tried to contact me, I remember. And I think I was one of my, you know, I didn't respond, I didn't answer the emails. So he went to Roberta Grossman, who had directed Above and Beyond for me and who I started working with on Who Will Write Her History as well. And Dani said, I have this film. I made, you know, it's in Hebrew, it's an Israeli film, and I think we could do something more. So when we watched it, so the first thing is I always have to figure out who this is I'm about to get into bed with, because whenever you make a film, you know, you spend a couple years and there are the crazies and you really just want to steer clear, and that it wasn't someone that was looking for my brother, but me. And that's the other thing. It's like, could you know, they passed me and say, give this to Steve. So, so I watched his films. I watched Dolphin Boy, which I was amazed, and I already saw this is such a sensitive, wonderful filmmaker, and also somebody that there's a certain innocence to you. I mean, I'm just saying it. Like, you're the guy that would stick the daisy in the end of every soldier's rifle. You know, you do look for that happy ending. And I saw something positive. And then when I watched the Israeli version, Roberta and I both said, this, I knew nothing. Nothing.
I was gonna ask you knew nothing about it until you said...
Nothing. I was on kibbutz. I liked Israeli soldiers. I didn't like basketball players. So I knew nothing. Actually, I was with Allison on kibbutz, right there, my kibbutz friend. Don't tell anybody, Allison. Okay.
You were there in 1977?
Not naughty, but I was just, did you see,
Were you in Israel in 1977?
Yes.
But you were oblivious to the game?
No, I was on a kibbutz. I was picking corn and having fun and sitting around a campfire. Yeah, I was hanging out with a nachal. And so really, in general, I don't know much about basketball. I know much less about football. But so I saw this story and immediately it appealed to Roberta and me because it had so much reach that this is just way too good of a story to make it just an Israeli story. And also I love, which I did with Above and Beyond, I love the story of Americans joining Israelis to combat the evil forces. So with Above and Beyond, it was World War II American pilots that volunteered. They smuggled airplanes and equipment out of America, flew to Israel, brought in the supplies, brought in the first planes, and taught the Israelis how to fly, and they flew and fought in Israel's War of Independence. And it was that force of Americans and Israelis coming together. And here again were the Americans and Israelis coming together to fight Russians who refused to recognize Israel's right to exist.
It's like Prime Minister Rabin says right now in the movie, says Israel always wins with its spirit and a little bit of help from
A little
America.
bit of help, which of course I think when we all watched it, and I hadn't seen it for a couple years, so I was watching and I was crying because it has a different meaning today. After October 7, it really resonates in a whole, every line you read in a different matter, but with strength and with pride.
So, just
So anyway, so we decided then that we would work with Dani. He started filming. We had I forget
Bill
his
Walton,
name.
David
Bill
Stern,
Walton and David
and, yeah.
Stern, and then just expanding the story. So it felt like it would thrive outside of Israel.
So we also had another wonderful producer named John Weinbach that, parallel to this, has done a series called The Last Dance about somebody named Michael Jordan, but he still loved this, you know. So he was like, he gave us like the 30 for 30 feel to it.
So what was different? So it was originally in Hebrew, it was originally in and then the English version that was done with you and Roberta, how did you make it different?
Well, I think we fleshed out a lot more of the American aspect, the backstories, having Bill Walton, having the commissioner, telling that piece. And of course, you know, when you see, I don't remember if Yair Lapid, I guess he was in...
Everybody that spoke here in English were done specifically for this. Besides Aulcie and Tal, they spoke in English.
Right.
No, actually, Tal in the Israeli version speaks Hebrew.
Oh, that had to be tough.
Tal said that if he knew that he will come for 60 years and not 1 year, he would have learned Hebrew.
Right.
You know, in Israel, you know, is known to be the person that it's hard for him to speak. But yes, Yair Lapid, Alex Giladi, Sharansky,
Right.
we did again in.
So, and all of a sudden you have all these different people. So the minute you have Bill Walton, you have broken out of Israel's borders and, you know, brought that world of basketball to here.
Why do you think it was so important to bring it to an international audience?
There's many reasons why this really needed to be seen. First of all, it is an incredible sports story, an incredible story of really what Israel goes through with constant battles and, you know, struggling constantly to keep its statehood, which is questioned by many all the time, and forces trying to destroy it, even today, of course, even maybe more so. But also I felt this was such a wonderful, like, injection of Jewish pride. So if for nothing but for the Jews in America and around the world, this made you feel so good. And we need that kind of medicine. You know, it really does. I feel like I got an IV of something that is giving me the energy to continue to work towards the powers against us.
I think everyone in the room today felt that,
Yeah.
I'm sure. You and Dani have continued working together on a few other films, and one of them was a documentary about Ozzie Perry. Can you tell us about that film?
So when we met and we liked each other and we got married and decided to make this other film together, Dani was talking about Aulcie. He said, no, the next film has to be Aulcie. And he said, I already shot so much of it and so much of the footage from this, but he is an incredible story that is, it's a tough story because Aulcie fell, and you really all have to see the film, he fell on hard times. I think he was arrested for some drug it wasn't, it was sort of smuggling. I don't know, I think he had passed some drugs to somebody, and he was arrested. So he went really from the top to the bottom. Drug use, he was in prison in America. And at some point when he was out on parole, he met a woman, and she had a child, and he had never met that child, a girl. And so even through the story of Aulcie, from the tops to the bottom, to finding out that there was this daughter that he had never met. And Dani was able to film that first meeting and that connection, and then him going back to Israel after he was done with parole and everything. And his team, I'm like blowing it for you, the whole story. But just again, his acceptance into Israel. When he talks about, I can hardly walk down the street without people coming up to me, to this day, today, that is how it is for him. So it just was the natural
Progression.
Natural progression, yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions for Nancy, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. So you've also co-founded Jewish Story Partners. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what was the intention behind that?
Right. So Roberta and I went on to make Who Will Write Our History. We worked together on many other films, Vishniac, and every single time that we are making films, we are doing these as not-for-profit. We have to go raise money. I joke and say I'm Spielberg the schnorrer, because, and it's tough. And we looked at each other and said, enough. We need a fund to tell Jewish stories through film. And Jewish films get the least amount of funding from film funds. And Jews in general, their philanthropy doesn't necessarily go to films. They may go to buildings or hospitals or, lots of other things. So we went to my brother's foundation, Righteous Persons Foundation, which had started after my brother did Schindler's List, my brother insisted that he would not keep one penny of the profits. It was blood money, and he put it all in a foundation to give away. So that's Righteous Persons Foundation, which has grown, and they've given away a lot of money, done a lot of good. And we went and said, we need this vehicle. And they happened to have $1 million lying around because it had been with the Jewish Foundation for Culture, which was trying to fund films, but it wasn't successful. And the Jewish Foundation for Culture gave the $1 million back, and they parked it looking for the right fund to tell Jewish stories. So with that, we kicked it off, and we've funded, we don't fund the entire film, we fund portions of. We funded 136 films, and we've had Oscar nominations and broadcast deals and, Tribeca, Sundance, really great films. And we do a lot of mentorship because it's not just about $1. A lot of filmmakers really need help. They need help with creative help. They need connections. They need help in distribution. That's a really big issue we all have trouble with any Jewish films, and mostly if they're Israeli, because we're being blacklisted from everything right now. So we are working on doing that as well. So that's Jewish Story Partners.
Okay, very good to know about. Thank you. It's a great initiative. Nancy, last question for you, and then I've got a question for both of you. But so you were in Israel on October 7th. Your daughter, son-in-law, granddaughter live in Tel Aviv. Given your deep commitment to confronting anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment, how do you see the medium of film, which is your medium, playing a role in that effort today?
Well, they say that film is an empathy machine, and we are a very visual society. So I really think that is the only way that we can get messages through, because when somebody can connect with a character, they do find commonalities. They say, they empathize. They say, I know I felt that way, or I did that same thing. And it starts to build some bonds. And with Jewish Story Partners, we also said, the idea is that Jews are so fragmented. We're a mess right now. We need to understand each other better. That we are all kinds of Jews, and we need the outside world to understand us. So hopefully film is the medium that can help bring us together and people together. I know I sound like Dani Menkin right now, being very hopeful and positive, but I think it's really our hope. And we really need to start to work on short content, because younger generations do not watch anything longer than, TikTok. Yeah. And I think that's really what we have to work. And we have to work even younger than college. We have to go even to, first years in high school and maybe even lower than that to try to get Jewish kids back into the fold.
Yes. Yes. Okay, last question. Last question of Dani and Nancy before throwing it over to the audience for Q&A. And it's on a completely different note, but I feel like I've got a brilliant filmmaker here and a brilliant film producer here. So I wanted to hear from each of you, what is your all-time favourite film? And in one sentence, why? So Dani, starting with you.
Yeah, but can we choose family movie or?
No, not one of your own movies. The movie out
Okay,
there.
no, but I'm saying no. But I mean, for me, I love Forrest Gump.
Why?
Yeah, because it really it was a clever way to an underdog that is going on a journey, love journey. That in that specific story, they tell the entire history of America. And I as I said, I communicate with that in a small portion with on the map, I love the smart way they do it. And just for the soundtrack, even that.
Nancy.
Well, first of all, if you were talking to me when I was really young, I probably would have said Bambi, or something. And yes, I'm related, but Schindler's List. Yeah. Schindler's List, right.
Over to the audience. Do we have some hands for questions? Just over there with the...
We're going to...
First of all, I didn't know anything about this, and it was amazing. And the storytelling was incredible, and the execution beautiful, and the substance amazing. So I just wanted to put that out there before I ask my question, which is the phrase "on the map," which contextually in 1977 was a big deal, because I think it focused a lot of people onto a tiny little underdog. Today, I kind of wish fewer people were focusing on Israel's position on the map, and also had a better conceptual understanding of what the size of Israel. I mean, you ask your random person on the street how big is Israel, and how many people live there, and their concept is like insane compared to the facts on the ground. So I wonder if you could address just the phrase of "on the map" then and today.
For me, this was really a moment that that guy, Tal Brody, found his life mission. Until today, he wants to put Israel on the map. He's an ambassador for goodwill for the States of Israel, and he won twice the Israeli prize. I know it's not really directly answering your question, but it was really a pure moment that he felt, that people are questioning, people are still questioning. I think the core of everything is that, we're negotiating with folks that don't think we need to exist. So we're doing this, and then Tal Brody just captured that. It's like a capsule of moment, and that answers everything. Yeah, we're on the map. And there was a moment after the Knicks game that somebody goes to Jerry Seinfeld and he asks him, "Did you see that?"
Yeah.
He asked me, "Where are Palestine?" There is no, So that's almost the opposite of this, We were, when we are winning the Russians, that's how I really feel like that was the moment that captured exactly how we felt and how we wanted to heal from the trauma that we faced.
But I have to tell you that I think it's so true what you said. It's a distortion of social media. It's the repetitive nature of saying things like genocide and Palestine. What I see so many people, I don't even know if they realize they don't say Israel anymore. They say Palestine, because this is the plan out there. It's been a plan that was for the last 20 plus years, that there has been some infiltration in the universities with thought processes. There are bots. There's so much effort put into delegitimizing Israel. And I don't know why we can't find the efforts as expansive to legitimize Israel, to teach the truth. But you know, we're sort of talking to deaf ears in some ways. Doesn't mean we're going to stop talking, but we have to find like a little bit more creative ways to try to get the truth out. I mean, it's interesting because, you know, Israel got blamed for all kinds of the numbers. The numbers in Gaza was a big issue. And I did a film, my last film, Letter to David, was about one of the hostages that was just released. And we had a card at one point, before all the hostages were home, we had a card at the end of the film that mentioned how many people were killed. And somebody screamed at us and said, how dare you take a number that basically came from the Gaza Health Ministry. So, and they were right, and we took it off. They were right. Only now are they coming out with, oh, by the way, you know, the hospital that we said Israel bombed, Israel didn't bomb it. Oh, remember those journalists that we said all those journalists were killed? No, those were actually martyrs, and they were Hamas soldiers. So the truth is eking out, but nobody wants to hear it. They've made up their minds. So that is, I think, the biggest issue, is how to reprogram. I always wonder, like, how did we reprogram the Nazi ideology? So whatever worked, and some of it is re-education. So you have to start very young, because in some cases the education is kill the Jews, and you know, and from the river to the sea. So we have to somehow get rid of that and get some better ways to educate the younger masses in the world.
Do we have another hand, another
Yep,
question?
we have a couple more questions. I just want to ask Jason if he can also put on the QR code for the online silent auction one more time, if that's okay, just to cycle that in the
I
meantime.
see a question at the back.
First of all, thank you. I was moved to tears. I think a lot of us were here. It felt truly inspiring. It had that Jewish humor, chutzpah. That thing with Rabin had us laughing our asses off back here too, I'm sure. Like, it was great. Couple-part question. When I was watching it, I was, before the Miracle, the 1980 Miracle thing came on, I was thinking that. It had flashes of Rudy and the underdog and so much else. Part one, if you were to see it kind of pop up while watching this, you know, check out this, what would be some of those movies that you would think it would align with in theme and then in search? Two would be, are there thoughts of other upcoming movies in this vein that would be collaborative with other cultures, so then it would kind of penetrate not just as an Israel film, but as a collaborative, that a broader audience isn't seeing Israel first, but it's embedded in, unabashedly, our story. And part three, I forgot.
Well, I forgot part one.
No, I mean, what I can tell you is that, you know, this is really what this means to be. You know, I think you just mentioned that, you know, sometimes people say, oh, not another Shoah story. And I hear, oh, not another October 7th story. So the idea is that we are going to bring stories that are uplifting, different, and happy, funny, which actually, if you do go to Tel Aviv or to anywhere in Israel, that's really what it is all about. You know, we were talking before about the way we need to combat the notion, the false notion of genocide, and how many times I hear, oh my gosh, those students, they don't know anything, and they criticize Israel. Nobody speaks about Iran and stuff like that. I think instead of investing so much with our army, which we probably should do for the next decades, we need to start investing in cameras, in storytelling, in short and long forms of storytellings. One of the films that we worked on, Picture of His Life, it was about a wildlife photographer that was a soldier in the Yom Kippur, and he replaced the gun with a camera. And I hope we will start replacing our guns with cameras and start telling our story, because then by meeting the true nature of Israel, I think that will be the answer of everyone's frustration that I hear all the time. Oh, if they just knew. There is a way. We need, how about if we'll just tell them? So that's what we're trying to do. So when you buy a ball or a shirt, it will help us buy, or you support Jewish Story Partners, it will help us tell those stories, which we need to do more and more.
But by the way, sports is the intro to the younger, to a wide age, demographics, but younger people are so impressed with sports figures that if there's probably lots of different stories that do involve maybe, a Jewish sports guy and a person from another culture so that you can bring that together.
We'll take another couple of questions. Okay, I see in the back, right at the back, with hand up.
I'm gonna go. Hi guys, how are you? Dani, over here, to your right, up top.
The light is really...
That's okay. First of all, thank you. I've been fortunate enough to been a part of some of the movies, as showing them, and we showed Above and Beyond at an aerospace museum with BBYO. With Dani, we've done a couple of movies where we brought on the map to the JCC. And I will tell you, for people that are here, I know they talked about giving, to see young kids see those movies and to be proud Jews, proud to see Israel in a positive light, and to see Americans in Above and Beyond, dying for the state of Israel. And then, of course, seeing the Aulcie movie for, African Americans, where they see him being so welcome. So my first part is that I really do hope everybody here will go on whatever QR code and will give, whether it's 180, 360, 720, or even more, because that money is so well spent in terms of, helping our youth hear the story. And I also suggest, if it's okay if I say, that if you can bring it to your synagogue, if you can bring it to a JCC or whatever it is, and fundraise or just show the film, definitely speak to my good friend Michael over here and speak to them as well. I'm telling you, it'll change hearts and minds. With that said, I'm just curious to know from the both of you, what is your next documentary that you're working on?
So first, you're a brother, Todd. Thank you so much.
I'm actually working with an incredible director, and I think he's not crazy, Tomer Heyman, and it is a story. The title will probably change right now. It's This Is How I Remember It, about Shimon Rothschild, a 99-year-old Holocaust survivor that really wanted to tell a story, and with all kinds of what they call unreal technology, he's literally almost put through a time tunnel, and we recreate his family. He lost his entire family. He had, it was a family of 11, and he's the only survivor. And he was in Auschwitz, and he was experimented on. He was 15 years old. In any case, there are actors that are playing, and he is literally directing them, telling them, everything about his story. So he's set designer, he's directing them. He's also having conversations offset with the young actors that are playing him and his siblings when they were young. So it's very powerful. It's a very unique tool to tell a survivor's story. And I'm only sorry that people hadn't started doing this before, because he's very sharp. He remembers everything, and so he is telling it exactly like it is and showing us. So that'll hopefully be done. He will turn 100 soon, and he has begged us to finish the film, and so that he can be there and see it in front of an audience.
I'll say quickly, I released a film called Colaville that was talking about the 4 people that were held hostage in a synagogue in Texas. If you remember it was 4 years ago, with Rabbi Charlie ended up throwing the chair. It did have a happy ending, thank God. And Rabbi Burdal was involved with it, and it's an inspirational story. So this story is still at the end of the festival, so we're still doing screening, and I'm happy to come and show it.
Okay, I think we'll take 2 more questions. There's one right at Milan.
What the media and the college students are saying. So when you speak to them and you hear their stories, their firsthand knowledge of what happened in this war, this brutal war, that needs to get out there, because all the lies being told will never stop until you hear it from them, because the people in the West do not understand what happens in the Middle East and the history of the Middle East, because if the Jews were not there, they would be fighting each other and nobody would care. So we need their voices out there and their stories to be told, because every one of them has a horror story, not about who died, about what they saw and what was done and what they were forced to do when they did not know was happening until after the fact by the Hamas terrorists.
Well, I think from being there October 7th and unfortunately seeing too much of the body cams and stuff, because it wasn't censored. We were in Israel, everything's unfolding. And there were a lot of filmmakers, a lot of October 7th filmmakers. There was a volunteer group. So everybody was trying to amass all these different elements. Because, I think there was some sympathy, I guess I call it sympathy, from news stations for about 9-10 days, and then it sort of flipped. So it's a constant struggle. And those films, there are lots of films where they are talking to all the people that were involved, but nobody wants to see them. So it's preaching to the choir in a sense. Sometimes we make films and someone just sent me a film and said, help me, how do I get this film seen? And I thought, your film will not be seen outside of the more right-leaning Jewish community, because nobody, there's just this closed-minded attitude. But there were things like Nova Exhibit that went around, or there was When We Will Dance Again, and the Children of October 7th, that was Paramount took them and are streaming them. So at least there is some truth out there. How many people, I wonder, on Paramount Plus are tuning into that? But at least there's a place to go. So it's a lot. I'm sorry, I don't want to drag this on, but it's so much about the PR, because we make these films and then, we don't all have the money for the distribution. And distribution means don't just put it in a movie theater, but advertise it, get it out there. So it really takes a village to get these films out there into the world and break beyond the barriers that have been put up around us. So that's what we do. But, we don't make money. If we wanted to make money, we would be doing something else, I think. But this is what drives us, is getting the stories out.
Dani, did you want to comment? No?
I agree. The only thing we can do, like I said before about my company, is take a sad song and just make it better. Now it's time to heal. I think we're too close to October 7, and a lot of us want, including me, are not able yet to cope with this horror. I think right now, give me a little bit more on the map, That's what I can tell personally.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dani. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, audience. Thank you all for coming and making this such a great night. Thank you.